The main theme that I heard in that song was moving on. Cat calls from the audience, huh? Think about that for a second. I started to reflect as the song was going on, what have I heard in the past from all the great teachers? And all the great teachers have said, there's an inner power. There's something within. Jesus would say, it is the Father within. You read Think and Grow Rich. It's about a power within. And everyone talks about tuning into that power, tuning into that power. What is that power? And it is the most simple thing. It is the most simple thing that we've ever seen. It's the power of our belief. It's the power of conscious thinking. And so much of our lives have been based on this idea of compulsive thinking. Compulsive is another word that I really enjoy that is different than unconscious thinking. Because we have created habits of thought, am I right? All of our lives, we created these habits of thoughts, and then something happens and we are compulsed into doing something. For example, it would have been many years ago, 34 years ago, 33 years ago, something like that, I was drinking coffee. When you drink coffee, I was compulsed into having a cigarette. It wasn't a conscious choice, it was a compulsion, right? I had a habit. I drank a cup of coffee, a cigarette popped into my hand. What happened then? I was compulsed to be in a bar. And when you're in a bar, what do you have? A drink. So you're having a drink, what do you do next? Cigarette in your hand. Now, it was not a conscious choice. I was jogging at that time, 3 to 5 miles a day, working out at the gym. I was a healthy dude. But was I really healthy in my mind? Did I have an image of my mind? Did I realize that my mind was my inner power? No, I had built up this habit that I started of smoking when I got engaged. And if you met my mother-in-law, you would understand why I picked up smoking. And I can say that now because the dear woman has passed and she won't be watching this, and I won't have to fear any retribution coming from her. Fire comes down, kills minister on stage. How great is that? But the idea is, it wasn't until later that I started to make a conscious choice. And that conscious choice to quit smoking happened holding my son at 9.5 months old in my arm while going to the mailbox, smoking a cigarette, and he looked at me and said, oh, I don't want my son to hear that. I don't want my son to see that. I didn't want that to be an example to my son. Does that make sense? So at that point, I made a conscious decision to quit. So we understand that to consciously choose something means we align our thoughts, our words, and our actions up with it, right? That's the power of belief. When we've got that in alignment, we start to create a new experience. Because why? We become a different energy. And everything we understand is energy. But everything that is energy is at a vibrational frequency. And if we're not near that frequency, we can't experience something. We can only experience the frequency that we're tuned into. So I want to say that people who are tapped in, people who are in touch with their power, they understand some real critical things. And that's what I want to talk about today. People who are tapped in do not judge by appearances. Why? Because appearances are what? The world of effect. So if you're judging by an appearance, you're judging by an effect, and you're trying to change, let's say we're trying to change someone's effect. We're trying to deal with a situation that's out here, but where's the cause? The cause is in the mind. It was interesting, I was doing a counseling session the other day, and a young girl was involved, very, very young, under 10. And what I tried to distinguish with this young girl is that that is not an evil person. That is a person who's done something that is evil. Does that make sense? Do you see the difference? Because if we buy into this idea that everyone is the expression of the infinite, that everyone is a divine and perfect expression, then it must be that the core of every human being on this planet, no matter what act, no matter what they've done, has been, they are the divine of God. They are that infinite power and presence right there in them, but they are so unconscious that they are making a decision that is in a thought process that's out of love, and therefore demonstrating an act that in our human form we consider horrendous. Taking a life in human form is considered a horrendous act. Is that not right? But if you are in the divine, if you are way above all this and you are the infinite looking upon itself, would the infinite condemn itself if someone died? No, because they realize at the infinite level it's the rebirthing into a new life. Does that make sense? So from the human perspective, things look one way. From the divine perspective, from the infinite perspective, the infinite can't judge. Do you understand that? It is impossible for the infinite to judge, because in order to judge, you have to have something to compare against. If you've got nothing to compare against because you're the infinite, and the infinite means that's all there is, there's nothing to judge against. And without the ability to judge against something, everything is you. Therefore, do you judge yourself? Do you condemn yourself to hell? I heard that and it was just fascinating to me. I was listening to a discussion on a video because I'm a voracious student. I'm a voracious student of philosophy, of psychology, and of spirituality. I want to understand it at a deeper and deeper and deeper level, because the more ways I can get it into my mind, the more ways I can come and present it to you to consider. See, my second point is, this is really critical. It's number one, don't judge by appearances, because the appearances can fool you. You may think that that person over there is rejecting you. That person over there just might be the most extreme introvert. And it's not in their nature to talk. It's not in their nature to respond. You don't know what that person's going through in any moment of any day. You don't have an idea what's going on in their mind. We never have an idea what's going on in our mind. If everyone here told their story, we would all go, whoa, did I make some bad assumptions? We think that everyone has our upbringing. You know that? Our perspective, our perception, we think everyone is coming from that, and they're not. No one else is coming from that. Only we are. We as individuals. So there's this idea, don't judge by appearances, right? Here's the next thing. This is so critical. You got to prove everything for yourself. You've got to prove everything for yourself. You are not here to come to this thing we call agape, this magnificent energy, and you have this Guru Lee Babaji, Prajnananda Buddha. I don't know, whatever you want to call me. You do not have a guru. You have an individual who is here, who's giving you the very best he's uncovered for you to consider. Did you hear that last word? To consider. I'm not saying to believe me. Does that make sense? I'm saying consider what I'm saying and prove it one way or another for yourself. Why? Because you have the same power that everyone has ever had. You have the same power as Christ. You have the same power as Buddha. You have the same power as Tesla. You have the same power as Bill Gates. You've got the same power of any human being that has ever walked this planet, because they all come from the very same point. They come from a point of connection, of oneness, and in that point of connection and oneness, they simply built a belief that was beyond anyone else's in a particular area in a way that they wanted to express it, to choose it, to be it. And in that belief, with such commitment, they said, I am directing all my words, all my thoughts, all my actions into that belief. And then they demonstrated this, and nothing got in their way. You see, they didn't give a hoot about anyone criticizing them. Great people, if you study the biographies of great people, you will find they were always criticized. They were always on the outskirts. They were always cast aside. They were always in some way persecuted. Why? They were on the leading edge. They were now willing to accept the beliefs of the masses. Do you hear that? When you accept the belief of the masses, you are going to live an average life. Do you want to live an average life? That sucks. If you look out there, what's average? It really does. Thank God you live in the United States, because an average life here is a lot better average life than living in Syria. Hear what I'm saying? There's different averages all over the planet. In every city, there are different averages. We call that the collective consciousness or the collective belief system. And those collective belief systems influence individual people. So here's something I'm going to ask you to prove. When you're in groups of people, feel the energy. Feel the energy. What are the conversations that people are having? And how does that conversation make you feel? See, if that conversation makes you feel like, my butt's puckering. Oh, maybe I shouldn't be there. Am I right? That's a sign. When your belly clenches, when all of a sudden your head maybe, some people get headaches. Some people start changing their breath. Some people start doing these things. Some people, when they don't know something, start defending themselves deeper and deeper and deeper. I'm going to share probably one of the biggest insights that I had all week. I was watching a video with Deepak Chopra, and I forget the gentleman's name. He's one of the leading speakers on being an atheist. And in this conversation, the gentleman speaking for atheism really claimed and really came in and zeroed in on something with Deepak. It was on quantum physics. And he really attacked Deepak, and he says, Deepak, are you a quantum physicist? And Deepak says, well, I've studied quantum physics. I've taken a class or two. I've studied quantum physics. And the guy said to him, he says, you are not a quantum physicist. What you've done is you have taken certain things that you believe support your views, and you use them over and over. But what if we get a quantum physicist here, they will see it and explain it differently than what you're explaining. And then all of a sudden, Deepak, he started to defend himself. He started to really come out and defend himself. And I'm saying, wait a second, I've never seen this before where I saw this side of another individual. And then the atheist in jest said, maybe you ought to meditate. Ooh. So I pondered that because I've been with Deepak several times. I think Deepak is one of the best teachers on the planet. I love the man. I love what he teaches. But the lesson I got was this. He was invested in trying to change that man's beliefs. You can't. You see, you cannot change anyone's beliefs. The only beliefs that you can change are your own. And when you change your beliefs, then you become an energy. And when you become an energy, you will attract a different experience and different people into your life. But you may not be able to, as the song said, you may have to move on with all the other people in your life. Why? They're not vibrating at that energy anymore, are they? That's what I have found as my life continues to evolve and I continue to find my power within me and I start to change where my vibration is. Wherever we have moved, we started off in Michigan. We went to Rhode Island. We went to Tampa. We went back to Rhode Island. We came to Dallas. We've been here now 28 years. Wherever we've gone, I've had huge circles of friends. I am a social butterfly. I'm a connector. I build community, social community, wherever I'm at. I've had thousands and thousands of people that have been in my life. Most of them have moved over here because I've gone over here. So I never look, can I go back and bring them forward? You see, try to go back and bring someone forward would be extreme pain. Why? You're trying to force a round thing into a square hole. You can't do it. You see, when you become a different energy, you can't be with a different energy. Does that make sense? But it doesn't mean you ostracize them. What it means is that in your powerful state, you recognize that they are the expression of God that is perfect for them. And you honor that. You can be with that. But that doesn't mean you're there a lot. You can't be there a lot because you'll feel uncomfortable. Does that make sense? It's like you can go and visit someone that you've been friends with for a long time. You can be with them for a half hour, okay? But to be with them 4 or 5 hours, it's going to get painful. Does it make sense? Because if you visit an old friend, what happens? Hey, how you doing? Tell me about your life. It's really superficial. Once you get past that superficial stuff and you start getting into the meat of discussion, you find out you've got nothing in common. So remember, you've got to not judge by appearance. You've got to prove everything for yourself. You've got to look beyond the past and see it from the now. Not from the future. You've got to see it from the now. Where am I in this moment? How do I see life? And when you come into the now, you can go back and you can recreate your entire past. Psychologists talk about this all the time. You want to have a better childhood? Recreate it. But to have a better childhood, let's say as a child you were a victim. You were in an abusive situation, you were a victim. In order to be different today, you've got to not come from being a victim today, because most people who have been victims in childhood are still victims today. Does that make sense? Because they haven't changed the energy about them. So if you want to come out of victimhood, you got to come over here and say, I am not a victim. I was just unaware, and the thought vibration that I was putting out there was an unconscious vibration. Now I'm choosing a conscious vibration where I am all-powerful. I am the creator of my life through my thoughts. I understand that. I put out that vibration. Now I can look back at the past, and all of a sudden I see where I was a victim because it was in my own consciousness, and I realize that I am 100% responsible for that, what happened to me, because it's not what happened to me, it's what I perceived happened to me. Does that make sense? You see, if we are divinity, if we are expressing and going to live forever and ever and ever, then an event doesn't matter to us. What happened, that physical event doesn't matter. It's the perception of what we experience in that event, and then if we take that perception forward. Does that make sense? Because we're going to have those experiences, because it's through those experiences that we grow, that we become more aware, because until we become more aware, we don't experience difference. So that's why there's contrast. Contrast will always, 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 always be there. But can we look at it and say, what is it calling me forth to be? Not because God wants you to be it, but what is it calling forth to be from that still small voice in you? The presence and desire that is within you that desires to be a greater expression and experience of love, to give your gift more fully, to give it more completely, to give it unconditionally. You see, we have been taught, this is really key, because this point I really want to make here is, are you giving it because you expect something, or are you giving it because it's natural? Is it who you are that you give? Because from the moment we're born, I go back to my childhood. Mama told me, you do this, you're a good boy. Got to school, you do this, you're a good boy. Got into a marriage, my wife said, you do this, you're a good boy. That didn't last long. It didn't last long in school. It didn't last long with my parents. I constantly rebelled against anything that limited my freedom. Why? Because it's the nature of the divine. The divine has no limitations upon it. You are the divine, individualized. You have no limitations. And anytime anything or anyone puts a limitation on you, you just don't want to do it. You're going to either be passive-aggressive or you're going to be outwardly aggressive, or if you hold it in, it's going to at some point explode out of you. Because it is not the natural state of how we are chosen to be. We are to be free. We are to be unique. We are to be unlimited. We are to express ourselves. And see, the thing is, if we're coming from this idea that we are love and expression and that we're accepting, people say, well, then there's no rules and society will fall apart. No. People will be giving their gifts They won't be trying to steal from you. They won't be trying to murder you. They're going to be giving their gifts. You only steal, you only murder when you felt so confined that there's nowhere else you can go. If you want to understand the people that are in Iraq and ISIS and all of this, you got to understand that they're in a box that's so darn tight that they don't know anything else but to strike out in physical violence. They don't know there's anything else. So what they're doing seems like the only natural thing. Now, I'm not condoning it, but I'm simply saying you got to step back and see it differently. For thousands and thousands of years, they lived in this culture that's what's expressing over there. So yeah, I don't condone anything they're doing, but I can certainly understand why. And why are they targeting us? What do we represent to them? We represent that which is constricting them. Where we here think we are free, but you see, they have a different opinion. That's why wars never solve anything, because you can never get two sides to see it from the same perspective. What I pray every day is that people of the world open up just this much to see that they're free. I open up this much to see that maybe they have a little bit more food to eat. I open up this much more to see that they're more educated so that they can think for themselves, not how to think. Or not to think how to think instead of what to think. It's most important that we teach people how to think, not to just believe what's been fed over years, over generations, over thousands of years. Think about the race consciousness that we've got. United States doesn't have a deep race consciousness. Are you following me? We've only been a country since 1776. But think about what's happening in the Middle East. They've been going through this for thousands of years, all the way through as far back as what? History, the Old Testament, or whatever history is. They've been going through that. So that's been building and building and building and building and building, and we walk over there and say, let's have peace. It's not going to happen like that. Do I have the answer? The only answer I have is pray. The only answer I have is if we start seeing them as whole and perfect, and we can shift the consciousness about that, they can shift. But before we can go praying over there, we've got to take care of our own house. That means this temple that is you. This mental, spiritual, and body temple that each of you are. That's where the work starts. Because until we can embody this within our own selves, we can't begin. We're faking it out there. And you know, when you're faking it out there, this law that creates all things knows you're faking it. And it doesn't give. It doesn't create anew. You've got to believe it for yourself. That's why I talk about, don't believe a word I ever say. Prove it for yourself. Here are the two things that I know. This is all I ever teach. You have to have a daily spiritual practice. And it must include meditation, and you must be directing the power within you. You can use prayer, you can use affirmation, you can use gratitude. All of that is a conscious thought in a direction. And in that conscious thought, you are directing the law. You are directing the power within you. Meditation allows you to connect with that power and to still your mind so that you can get into a spiritual reboot. You hear that? You're rebooting. You're becoming still. You're letting go of all the prior thoughts. Now you're coming in with the prayer part or the affirming part or the directing part, and you're putting a new image in. And when you do it every day, now you're building a habit of thought. And with that habit of thought, you change your belief. You can't pray once and have a new belief. You might be able to. Some people do. But most people, it takes practice. It takes time to build a habit. Is that right? They say 21 days is the average amount of time to build a habit. Well, it depends on the habit. If it's a difficult habit, it takes a lot longer. So if you've got a habit that's been going on for 40, 50, 60 years, it may take you 3 months. I believe that any habit can be reversed in a season. And a season is 3 months. So I'm asking you today, find something in your life that you want to see different and adopt a daily spiritual practice where you meditate and you direct the power within you for 3 months. I promise you, if you do that once a day, religiously, consistently, persistently, and build a belief about it, your life will change. It works for me, and any student here at Agape or any student of any faith that does this has seen that change in their lives. But what happens is we give up too quickly. We are the generations of instant gratitude. And beliefs do not change instantly based on the experience I'm watching. They can, but they don't. So I simply invite you to consider proving what we talk about every Sunday for yourself. I want you to know that the power is in you. It has always been there, and you are without limitation. I want to thank you for joining us today. I am so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask you to go to our website. Once there, click on the Contribute button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to the world. I would also ask you to please share this message with anyone you feel might benefit. Again, I want to thank you for joining me and the Agape community as together we bring joy to life.